Low blocks are back in FM26. Well, at least they are in the third division of Portugal, where my Academica squad is utilizing a low block system to pull themselves 6 points clear of everyone else halfway through the season. But low blocks never worked for me in the past. So today I want to talk about this 3-5-2 low block system and why it never worked for me in FM24. Then we'll talk about how the changes to in possession and out of possession tactics in FM26 have fixed all of these problems for me and led me to potential glory with Academica. And then of course we'll get into some gameplay so we can see it all come together. So why does this same shape that works in FM26 not work for me in FM24? Well, in FM24 I ran into the same two issues consistently. Both of these issues arose from possession in the channel area. First of all, when there was possession in the channels, even in our own third, even when the ball was only 25 yards out or very close to our box, I found that this ball to the corner was frustratingly easy. Way too many highlights from balls to the corner. Now if you're going to play a low block system, you do need people to eventually get back, and I found that the wingbacks on either side of this formation would never truly get back. And whether it was a midfielder, a winger, or a fullback, they would just sort of mosey on around, not even making a scintillating run, just sort of walk past my wingback. My wingback would be late to get back and be trailing the play. That led to balls to the byline, which led to goal opportunities. Now, secondly, when there was possession in the channel, I found that it would oftentimes be sort of no man's land. Now, we have a wingback here, but he wants to provide width, so he's not going to really step in and cover the channels too often. We have a center mid here, but you can't rely on a center midfielder all the time because he also has to get forward, and sometimes he's getting back or defending somebody else. Same thing with the defensive midfielder here. It's only one holding midfielder, so if he gets passed around, there's oftentimes no opportunities for him to stop these channel opportunities, which leads to this awkward one-on-one with my outside center back. Now, it's FM24, which means even if you have the best center back in the world, they're going to roll the dice, and 1 time out of 10, he's going to get beat, and that would lead to goal opportunities. And even with 3 center backs, this middle of the center back trio would be stuck also in no man's land, where if he went over and helped, if he's going to help this defender, he's vacating the middle of the field. That's rule number 1. He can't do that. It ended up being a true ISO on our outside center back, which was terrible, which led to me giving up goals right up the middle of a 3 center back system, which is unbelievably frustrating, especially in a low block. So how are we going to fix those issues that popped up in FM24 now that we can be in and out of possession with our tactics? Well, firstly, out of possession, I decided that we're just going to put a player where that passes. No longer will there be balls easily to the corner when we're in our own end, because our wingbacks are required to get all the way back and just be straight up fullbacks in our low block system. If this were high pressing, that's probably not going to work, but in a low block system where we're sitting back, we've got a chance to just create essentially a 5-person wall here. I decided to have them both be pressing fullbacks because originally I just had them as regular fullbacks, and that made sort of a true back 5, which was way too passive. Even for a low block, it was passive. So now, with a pressing fullback, we have that ball go to the corner, and he immediately will jump up and try to win the ball back. So he sort of waits for the ball to come and then is aggressive, whereas when he was a wingback, he was aggressive, and then when the ball came, he was sort of trailing the play. So our second issue was also coming out of those channel areas, and that fullback does help a little bit there as well. First of all, if this center back is going to get dribbled, we now have fullbacks that are significantly closer to where play is. So that's nice. They have a chance to help out. I certainly wouldn't count on them, though. Additionally, I have both of our center midfielders set as wide center midfielders, which means that they're going to get over and essentially cover this channel area when they get all the way back. Since we're playing a low block, they're going to be getting all the way back quite a bit. Lastly, our center back, the middle of our 3 center backs, is set as a covering center back. So it doesn't really show it here accurately, but he's essentially going to sit a little bit farther back than everybody else. So as a last-stitch effort, if Teixeira here gets dribbled and the ball's in behind, Lima has a chance, the middle of our 3 center backs has a chance to slide over and make a play. So that's the way that we're going to defend that there. But how does the formation play as a whole? There's a lot of empty space over here. How are we going to defend it? Well, don't forget that we are in a low block, so we don't have to really worry about these upper portions of the field. We don't really care about them. Go ahead and have your possession. That's fine. But when the ball enters into our own third or into our own half, these areas become vitally important. Now we're going to be defending a lot in these areas because this middle section of the field is going to be insanely rigid. We have 3 center backs, a D mid, and 2 center midfielders. No attacking midfielders, so everybody's going to be back, 6 people defending the middle of the field, which means the ball is going out wide a lot. When that ball does go out wide, we have a wonderful opportunity to create the defensive version of what everyone's always looking for on offense. Everybody's always trying to make triangles and squares on offense. We're going to do the same thing here on defense. When the ball goes out wide, we have the wide center midfielder who's naturally drifting out wide to try to defend those channels. We have a defensive midfielder and a center back that can step in if this guy's going to try to cut inside like an inside forward. No shot, he's running into 2 people. And then our pressing fullback's going to get up immediately and try to either force the turnover, force a bad pass to the middle, or force a back pass. That leads us to our strikers. One of our strikers here, this is our target man, Diego Souza. He stays up. That's fine. He's a target man. That's his job. But our other striker, Gervinho, he's playing as a tracking center forward. He's going to even add to this pressure on the outside even more. If there's a back pass that's sent back from the outside, Gervinho should, in theory, be right there. Additionally, if the other team has any sort of deep-lying playmakers or anything like that, our tracking center forward should be all over them, pestering them all day. This creates quite the squeeze on the outside, so the rigidity on the interior, those middle 6, that rigidity means that the ball basically is always forced outside. No one's going to be passing through the middle. And once that ball is passed outside, we have an opportunity to really aggressively press and smush this person up against the outside line and force a back pass, a bad pass, or a turnover. So now that we solved our issues defensively, how are we going to score goals? The number one most important thing for any formation. Well, for me, I'm trying to run a control possession formation here. So the goal is to sort of unfurl from this defensive block to a wide and expansive control possession formation. How are we going to do that? Well, first things first, we're going to have our wing backs fly up the outside of the field. They're playing as midfielders, wingers, getting farther forward every single time we have the ball. Additionally, in order to dominate the midfield, I'm going to maintain that midfield trio, and we're not going to have any of our midfielders making really aggressive forward runs. Everybody loves the segundo volante. Everybody loves the center midfielder on attack, but you're not going to see that in this formation because possession is key. We have 3 center midfielders. They're all going to be staying in the middle of the field and dominating play. When we play a 4-4-2, they're going to have 2 center midfielders. We're going to have 3. We're going to kill them. Additionally, in order to add to those numbers, I have an advanced center back that's going to be pushing into the middle of the field, making essentially a double pivot when we have possession. That double pivot's going to make it 4 in the midfield, and when you add in our deep lying forward, we can call it 4.5 in the midfield. So we should have really, really good numbers and consistent options out wide to make sure that we're always really solid in possession. Now, the person who's going to be that guy in possession is going to be our deep lying playmaker. He's going to be soaking up those easy passes from the center backs. He's going to be soaking up those short passes after a loss in possession, and he's going to be pinging the ball wherever he sees fit, whether that's easy passes through the middle, 1-2s, pinging the ball out wide, or playing really direct play up to our deep lying forward or our target forward. You'll notice that both of our strikers are playing with a fairly back-to-goal style. The deep lying forward's playing almost completely with his back to goal, and the target forward's probably 50-50, leading the line versus playing with his back to goal. That's because, like I said, we're trying to maintain possession and work our way up the field steadily. If I had Jamie Vardy, I might play a poacher, but I don't. I got a target forward and a deep lying forward, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to maintain possession and try to get that 65% possession mark when we dominate play. Hopping over to the visualizer here, we'll take a look at out of possession first, where there's not as much to say, but I will just note a couple things. First of all, I want to note that when we are not all the way back into our low block, it is not a flat back 5. Because we have a covering center back and because we have pressing fullbacks, there's going to be a little bit more aggression on the outside and a little bit more of a natural bowing, allowing us to play sort of halfway between what the combined looks like and a flat back 5, which is nice because if we did play a true flat back 5, there'd be way too much possession on the wings. Additionally, you'll see that that middle 6 is just super, super compact and strong. And then as we move back into our low block, you'll see that that turns into just this dense 5-4. Nobody should be passing through the middle. Nobody should be dribbling through the middle. It should only be long shots and weak crosses where you have great numbers around the ball. In possession, things are a lot more interesting. You'll see that in our own third, our deep line playmaker is set up with the ability to just sit in the middle of the field and ping passes wherever he sees fit. If you have an Andre Pirlo, this is a spot to play him. He's got options on the wing, he's got triangles through the middle, and then, of course, with a deep lying forward and a target forward, he can really ping aggressive passes if he needs to. If there's pressure on him, or if we don't have a great easy passing out of the back opportunity, he can ping that ball all the way up to the strikers, and they can then dish it off to their midfield counterparts. As we move into the middle of the field, you'll see that our advanced center back and deep lying playmaker have now formed a double pivot. They will be the heart of our offensive distribution. Additionally, you'll notice that these wide center midfielders are not shooting far forward. Like I said, they're not center midfielders on attack. They're not segundo volantes. They're not advanced playmakers. Their job is to sit in the middle of the field, be disciplined, and maintain possession. The fact that they're wide center midfielders just means that they get the F out of the way for this double pivot. If they weren't wide center midfielders, there can be this awkward little crunch where they're wide center midfielders, or where those center midfielders just kind of get in the way. So wide center midfielders helps them get the heck out of the way and also maintain a solid link with our wingers. Our wingers that used to be fullbacks and are now all the way up the field, leading the back line or near to leading the back line as we work our way through the middle of the field, which is really aggressive and a really fun position to watch. Moving into the offensive third, we can see the solidification of our 2-4-4 formation. Now, this isn't quite as aggressive as a lot of people like to play, and even in real-world modern football, there's a lot of 2-3-5s and 3-2-5 formations offensively that put a little bit more stress on the defense. But what I want here is possession, and I think that this allows us to do the highest level of possession that I could actually find out of this low block formation. So first of all, having 4 in the midfield means that we have excellent recycling options. If Edson Farias here on the wing gets pressured, he can cycle it back to the wide center midfielder, or he can cycle it all the way back to a center back if there's way too much pressure. This allows us to work the ball across the field to new scoring opportunities through 2 different channels that will always be populated with passing opportunities. Additionally, I find that in FM, when you tell someone like, let's say this midfielder, you put him on attack or you tell him to get further forward, I find that he has a tendency to just get to the back line and just wait for service. If I wanted him to stand at the back line and wait for service, I would have made him a poacher. I need him to be a midfielder, and I find that these runs coming out of the midfield are a lot harder to track than runs that start at the back line, especially for a center midfielder who's probably not going to be the best player you have off ball. He'll be good at it because center midfielders are good at a lot of things, but he's not going to be the person you want leading the back line. So instead, we give these guys opportunities to make late runs, and we give great opportunities to recycle play. The last thing I will note is because we have 6 here that are sort of in disciplined roles, the defensive players being farther back, but still those midfielders being in disciplined roles, it means that when the ball gets cleared out from the defense, when the ball's cleared or when there's a deflection, it oftentimes is going to a situation where we have somebody standing there ready to win the ball back already, rather than having nobody there and having the counterattack on. We have really good discipline here to win back possession in the midfield and put the pressure right back on the team while still maintaining that possession. You might be asking at this point, yeah, I get it tactically, but does it actually play that way on the field? Well, it does. So let's take a couple looks at exactly how it does. As a defensive formation, we have a turnover here, and we're going to highlight some of the ways that we stop them from counterattacking us and how we squeeze them defensively. You'll notice here off this turnover, we have a 5-on-2 in this little area of the field. I guess you could consider it 3, but that guy's standing right behind the defender, so he's not particularly useful unless this guy's Ronaldinho and threads an amazing pass through. This is going to force that backwards pass, which is great. It'll allow us to get into our low block. As the ball works out wide, we're going to see Pinto here sort of dribble into no man's land. So he's on the wing. He's got plenty of space because it's a low block. Our pressing fullback initially pressed, but made the right decision and dropped off because it was 2-on-1. And now that we're in our low block, we'll see this pass go out wide, and we'll see that we have a 3-on-3 over here. But this guy essentially doesn't count because he's standing next to the ball, so he's useless. Any pass to the middle, this pass isn't available because there's strikers running away from him, and a through ball is going to be a 2-on-1. The back pass isn't going to be available because we have our splitting center forward up there, and the short back pass isn't available. Neither of these more intermediate and short passes are available because we have 4 in the midfield, once again dominating those numbers. You'll see here, Pinto doesn't make a decision at all. Our pressing fullback's in his face, and we get right into our counter-pressing measures. Now that we have the ball back, we're going to immediately hop forward, relying on that double pivot. You can see here, Gervinho sitting back as a deep lying forward and really helps us dominate with numbers in the midfield. Once again, we're talking about dominating numbers in the midfield. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the midfield. That's not the way you circle things. That's 5 in the midfield to their 3 right here. So we're just going to go ahead and pass it around them. And then eventually we'll take advantage of, I think, our target forward, which is probably our best player. And then we work it to the wing for another great opportunity. Gervinho again helping us out. Take advantage of those double pivots, switch it to the far side. William doing a good job finding the target forward. And once again, our wingers wide in on goal, in which he absolutely is a lefty and does not take advantage of that opportunity. Here we have a good example of winning back possession and working our way out of the back. We have lovely ball up to our splitting target man who's just going to hold onto it and wait for help and work it back and forth between the midfielders. You can see that we're focusing on possession here and we're taking advantage of both of our forwards who are facing with their backs to goal. Additionally, we've also had great wing-back depth. This guy's come all the way from the back. There's another guy right here, just off your screen, who's flying up the outside. That's what you love to see out of those wing-backs. We have our creating that 4 of that front 4 and that 4 of our 4-4-2. So we've got great numbers getting forward already, quickly off of a counterattack. As we continue to work our way forward, the wingbacks are basically always open because we have so many numbers forward, and Andre's going to get a chance to pass one in here, which I don't think is scored. No, it's a laughable miss by Marcos Paulo, but a great opportunity created. Another opportunity here off of an offside call where we just can get into our possession 2-4-4 pretty quickly. Lima is our advanced center back, and he's going to be sort of our maestro here. You can see there's no desire to really force the ball forward quite yet, and there's tons of opportunities to pass it backwards. Because we are playing that 4-4-2, you'll notice that there's always those 2 center backs to pass to, and there's basically always the deep lying playmaker and the advanced center back that are always available for back passes, so we never really have to force anything forward. Add that in with the width and the ability of our target forwards and center midfielders, and we can get breaks like this, where our winger is essentially wide open and absolutely trips over his own feet, apparently. No call, ref. Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. If you like the details, seeing all the rules, and seeing how this all plays out on the field, let me know. If there's any tactic that you've been working on, also let me know. Or if there's any tactic that you want to see or any philosophy that you want to touch on, I can certainly do that as well. Other than that, everybody have a nice day, and I'll talk to you next time.